This podcast was produced from a webinar. For a more interactive experience with visuals, visit advancedmanufacturing.org/webinars.
And thank you to SME for setting up this program, encouraging us as women through connection and mentorship. It's been a real pleasure already to get to know the women that I know you guys are going to enjoy hearing from today. So with that, please join me on the virtual stage and we'll do some introductions. My name is Jennifer Coyne and I am the Director of Programs at the Barnes Global Advisors. I spent the last 18 years of my life, my full career in manufacturing and engineering, and first at a big business at GE, and then most recently at a small business for the last 4 years, helping other people adopt advanced manufacturing techniques. And with that, I'm so excited for this panel because these women are inspirational. They are leaders in their field, and I'm so excited for them to share with you parts of their journey. So with that, I'd love for you guys to do a little self-introduction. Could we start with Jane?
So hello, Jane Arnold. I'm the Chief Customer Officer at APERIO, which is an industrial software company. And I spent the first 35 years of my career in the field, starting as a control engineer and then up through varying levels of responsibility.
Thank you, Jane. Carley?
Hi, everybody. Dr. Carley Mollica. I received my Ph.D. in material science. I earned my Ph.D. in material science and engineering. Since right after graduation, I joined Lockheed Martin about 7 years ago as a test engineer and have since worked my way up to be program manager of the Mid-Range Capability Program, which is a missile-based launching system. And I do have about 5 years of experience focusing on robotics portfolio within our advanced technology labs at Lockheed Martin.
Awesome. Supriya?
Hi, everyone. My name is Supriya Padagunda. I'm a solutions architect working in Amazon Web Services. I help large manufacturing customers with their digital transformation and smart manufacturing journey. And I help with them with the AI, ML, and data transformations, those type of big efforts. I come from manufacturing background as a mechanical engineer. I worked initially in a manufacturing company, and then I moved over to computer science. With both mechanical and computer science, I do have a little bit advantage helping customers with the both technologies. So looking forward for this session and talking to you folks.
So thank you guys for joining today's conversation. We encourage you to submit questions during the using the Q&A box at any time during the program, and we'll address those either during or after our discussion together as a group here. So thank you all for joining, and let's dive in. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about your journey into manufacturing. It's not necessarily the first place that people think of doing when they're a little girl. They're not like, I want to go do this, right? So what got you to where you are today? Maybe we'll start with Jane.
So thank you for that question. And actually, as a little girl, I thought I was going to do something completely different. I was actually at university, and I was hoping to go to med school. When I finished my degree, I was working in a lot of psychology, sociology, and science fields or classes. I started my journey as a summer job. So I needed to pay for my senior year and needed to make some money. And so I had an opportunity at a chemical plant in Texas City, Texas, doing AutoCAD. So this was a long time ago, 1989, and back when we were first starting to use AutoCAD for instrument electrical drawings and other types of drawings, but most of it was still done on the board drafting. And I was only meant to be there for the summer, and I had a great boss who would take me out in the field and really train me and show me how things worked and what was going on. And I was just fascinated by all that I learned and knew that I had found, just by happenstance, the place where I was meant to be. So that summer job turned into 16 years and then a lifetime career in manufacturing.
Amazing. I love that that first exposure moment was just like love at first sight for you. And you're like, oh, this is it. It's awesome. Carley, what's your story?
So I'm actually the opposite of Jane. At 13 years old, my parents sent me to engineering camp in Syracuse, New York. And one of the visits was actually to Lockheed Martin within that area. And I had no clue what they did, but I just remember taking a tour of the facility and seeing people working and creating these amazing pieces of equipment and these amazing products. And basically, no kidding, every single career education decision from that point on was made so that I would one day work in manufacturing for Lockheed Martin. So it's been a long time since then, but I was very, I don't want to say narrow-minded, but I was very honed in on what my interest was ever since I was a young teenager.
That's awesome. I love the focus and the vision and the fact that you are there. Amazing.
I know. Amazing. I love it every day. I pinch myself.
So cool. So Priya, what's your story?
Yeah, mine is like, I come from a very small place, a small town from India. And, while growing up, I didn't have like, a technology close to me. All I was doing was like kind of fixing stuff at home. Like if there is any tape recorder, for example, it is broken, I would go and open it with a screwdriver and fixing stuff. So that is how my interest started. And, I got into, in India, we do entrance exams to get into engineering. So that's how I got into mechanical engineering. So which gave me a strong foundation in understanding manufacturing processes. So and then I started an internship at a manufacturing company where I witnessed like, firsthand challenges of, traditional manufacturing operations. Like you see like, paper-based quality checks, data collection was literally manual, no automation. And also the maintenance approach was also very reactive. There were no proactive approaches. This experience kind of inspired me to pursue computer science. Okay, so that's how, I got into it to understand better, right? Like you have so much of data and you have so many manufacturing processes, how we can actually bridge that gap between, digital technologies and manufacturing processes. So I think the real turning point for me is when I joined Amazon Web Services. Okay, so here, like, I get to work with very large manufacturing customers and, I help transform their traditional operations through data-driven solutions. For example, like recently I worked with a large manufacturing customer where like, I helped implementing industrial IoT sensors using machine learning models. So it automatically detects any quality issues in their building processes and significantly improving their product quality while reducing a lot of manual operations, right? So this is what like truly inspires me. And that is why, I'm here with both like mechanical and computer science background to see that, real transformation in manufacturing.
Yeah, and that's really neat that you started with a physical understanding of the processes and the products and then layered on top of that the data. That's a really neat perspective. Suzy, what about you?
Like, how does this sound? Is this better?
So much better. Great.
Okay, great. Yeah, I've had my headphones in. So for me, my story is coming full circle. So I grew up in a small town about 30 miles outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which back in the 1960s and 70s was a huge manufacturing hub. In fact, my town itself was the birthplace of the first aluminum company in the United States. And so all of my neighbors and my friends all worked in manufacturing. And then in the late 70s and early 80s, when Pittsburgh was devastated through the a good portion of the manufacturing and metals manufacturing moved overseas. I saw my friends move. I saw the town shut down. I saw that my small town go from a very vibrant town to a ghost town. And so that always stuck with me. I went into a career in technology. I went to school to be a computer programmer, and I spent, after spending many years doing that, spent years launching new software companies and new technology companies. And so when the opportunity came along to help start the ARM Institute, which is a nonprofit focused on growing U.S. manufacturing, I saw it as an opportunity to combine all of my loves, giving back to my community and giving back to the United States, States, right, by helping to grow manufacturing, by using advanced technologies like robotics and AI. And gee, I love to start and grow things. And so I really feel like it was a kind of a culmination of what I've done through my career to bring me to the ARM Institute.
That's awesome. And as a fellow Pittsburgh dweller, I can attest that is no longer that what it used to be.
Absolutely
and it's
not.
because of advanced manufacturing. And, that
Exactly.
has really revitalized regions around the country, old manufacturing towns around the country. And
yes,
being able to
we have
see that
become
part of that is awesome.
Exactly. Yeah, Pittsburgh's become a hub for advanced manufacturing in the United States now, and I couldn't be prouder of that.
Yeah. And it's just neat how this approach to advanced manufacturing can really impact lives like it did in this region and many others. So thank you, ladies, for that amazing introduction. Appreciate where you guys are all coming from and very diverse places, honestly, and what led you here. So, panel of women, not necessarily are normal in our day-to-day lives and in manufacturing, right? So how important do you think gender diversity is for fostering innovation in this sector, in the manufacturing sector? And what steps can organizations take to be more inclusive? I guess I'll start with Suzy on this one.
I think that the best ideas are formed by people with different backgrounds and different life experiences. And when you have everybody looking the same and acting the same with the same background, you don't get the best answer. That's always been my belief. I've spent my entire career in technology. A lot of technology has been focused particularly in men. But I find that when we have well-rounded teams that are created and everybody has an opportunity to provide input, that we get the best solutions. And so I think it's critical as we move forward that we realize that everybody's life experiences has value in coming up with the best way to move something forward.
Carley, do you have anything to add to that thought?
Yes, I agree wholeheartedly with everything that Suzy stated. And I also think a big part of it is that I know that something that we do and I incorporate with my team is really creating an open environment where people feel comfortable, regardless of where they came from, regardless of what their role is on the program. They have every right, and I want them to speak up about a situation, a path forward. If there's an issue that they notice, even if they think it's silly, I think that having that openness where, there's no judgments, where everybody wants to be heard is critical so that you can get those diverse perspectives from your entire team. So that's something that we really hone in on within my own team. And I've seen just as I interact even with Suzy at the ARM Institute, I know that that's very important to them as well.
Awesome. I like the focus on creating a culture where diversity is valued. That's what I heard from both of you guys, is if you can create that culture. So that's a step that we can take, is how do you create that from any walk of life? And I find that diversity comes in gender diversity. It comes in many other forms too. You got the quiet person over there in the corner that they don't normally speak up. Well, how do you create a culture where they also speak up and have their voices heard? So thanks for that. So shifting from, I'll say, focusing on diversity to, in general, we have a war for talent right now. I know that you guys are likely experiencing this. Finding and keeping good talent is difficult, particularly diverse good talent, right? As we just spoke about. So what are you guys doing within your organization to address this critical need for talent? And what advice would you share with someone wanting to enter the field to find those opportunities? I'll start with Suzy. Anyone else can jump in too.
So our mission is to help all of the manufacturing organizations do that well. And so what we decided about 6 years ago was to create an environment and a platform where we could help people understand what careers could look like with working with robotics in manufacturing. Carley's very familiar with our mission, being a member. And so what we found is that the biggest issue that's preventing manufacturers from moving forward with advanced manufacturing, Amazon is not one of them, but many of the small and medium-sized manufacturers are really struggle with this, is the lack of skills, the lack of the talent and the skills that's needed in order to work in an advanced manufacturing environment. So about 4 years ago, we launched a website and an environment, a product called roboticscareer.org. It's a free website that anyone can use. And what it does is a few different things. One, it helps people understand what careers in manufacturing look like if you're working with robotics. Secondly, it helps you understand the type of training that you might need in order to work with robotics in manufacturing. And we've got close to 17,000 programs across the US listed on the site, everything from micro-credentials to PhD programs. And we do a skills matching capability where we match the skills that somebody is looking for with the skills that these programs provide. And then third, we provide jobs. We have an average of 2,000 jobs daily that are out there. So our goal is to support all the manufacturers that are out there that are struggling with finding people who have a robotics talent to work in their manufacturing environment. And we've got good response from that the site is widely used. And any of you who are a manufacturer on the site are welcome to use it and post your jobs for free on it. So we're here to help them and help all of you.
What a great resource. And I love how that's both like the bottoms up approach of, hey, I'd like to learn how I acquire those skills, and, you know, the companies and what they're seeking. And you're going at it from both perspectives. That's amazing. Any other thoughts that you guys want to add on?
So I agree with everything that Suzy is saying, and I didn't know that was available. So that's wonderful to know. And there's some other opportunities as well for additional training. But to be successful in smart manufacturing, you have to keep up with technical advances. And it sounds like there's plenty of opportunities for learning and participating in networking events such as this one here today, and learn from your peers. That's also really important. And then my advice to everyone is to step in wherever you see an opportunity and don't wait to be asked. And the more you insert yourself, the more you be accepted in that area of expertise.
Jane, could I piggyback off that comment and say, like, you know, you've had a long and successful career. How has it evolved? You know, what were some of those pivotal moments that helped you get to where you are today? And you touched on a few things, but could you just elaborate on maybe some advice to those who are looking to follow a similar path?
So for me, you know, I'm very curious. So always curious about how things worked and what was happening. And I was always hungry for more knowledge. And I would tend to gravitate towards those topics which interested me. And when looking for a new role, I wouldn't just consider the salary, which is important. Don't give up your salary, but did it like draw me? And that was really important, because if I was interested in it, then I knew that I would be able to learn it well and I would do well and the salary would come. And another thing that I did was that I always said yes to leadership training opportunities. I was very introverted and shy, and I had to work at talking to people, making eye contact and that sort of thing. And when I was at Bayer, training was necessary in order to be able to move into a leadership position. And I always learned something that was critical to my success going forward. And I was able to, through these different training programs, qualify for a senior vice president role overseas. And I found through these experiences that leading people was just as interesting as solving technical problems, which I had spent the first 20 or so years of my career doing. And one thing my father taught me was to always say yes when you want to be considered for opportunities. And you don't say no until you actually get to the offer on the table, because there might be something interesting there that attracts you.
That's interesting. And especially that comment on people and technical. My boss always tells me, he said, we don't have technical problems. We always have people problems. Seems like if we get the people aligned, you can solve any technical challenge.
I completely agree. And having a diverse team is key to that.
Yeah, 100%. Carley, any, you know, I know you're a little on the earlier side of your career, but what about you? How has your career evolved? What are some of those pivotal moments that helped get you to where you are today?
Yes, so Jane had mentioned, I think right at the beginning of her commentary about, or response, about sort of learning and always taking those opportunities. And I think that that is the biggest piece of advice that I give sort of anybody who's interested in manufacturing and STEM, is just always having this willingness and eagerness to learn. Regardless of what position or level you are in a company, there's always more that you can learn and room to grow. So I've really kind of put that at the forefront of my career path. I have been with Lockheed for about 7 years and have had 5 different positions, moving up quickly. And I think that that's something that's also changed. And more so when I first entered the workforce, I think that there was almost a negative connotation to, or stigma to, kind of moving around quickly or learning and growing and taking those opportunities and jumping if you hadn't been in a position for a significant amount of period of time. So I just always, when an opportunity presented itself, I didn't hesitate. I just jumped at it because of my desire to learn and grow. And I really encourage people to do that, even if they feel like, they might not be well suited for a particular role, or they might not meet all of the requirements. That don't let that hinder your progress and your growth. Use it as an opportunity for room for you to grow and to learn and be put in that situation. I have a post that actually I'm staring at it right now, and it says, "Be comfortable being uncomfortable." That is my daily motto. I live by it. I live my life by it completely, in business and in my personal life. So you'll probably hear me say that many times today, but I truly believe that that's the truth, is you only are able to grow when you are uncomfortable. So don't be scared to be uncomfortable. Use that to your advantage.
I say that often in my life. It's a personal motto for me as well. So I appreciate that. Another thing you said was interesting. I've been a hiring manager and a people manager for a while now, maybe close to a decade. And it's interesting because I don't think I've ever had a role where someone fit it perfectly. No one ever fits all the requirements. No one ever has all of the qualifications and whatnot. But what you do, if you're a leader and a good leader, is you find how to shape the role around the person. So maybe have a conversation. How, I think I'm like 70% there, but I see myself being better at this, and this. And how do you shape that with your leadership through a conversation? It's like, well, I think I could really bring this, and maybe you'll bring something to the table that they didn't think about so far.
Right. That plays into the diversity perfectly that we spoke about earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. So Priya, we haven't heard from you yet, so I want to get you in here. So how can aspiring young professionals leverage their technical expertise to break into leadership roles in organizations that focus on cutting edge technologies, such as the one where you find yourself in now? Can you help us with like some advice for some of those professionals who heavy technical focus? How would you break into a leadership role?
Yeah, based on my experience, actually success in technical leadership actually requires a multifaceted approach. First, what I've been doing in my career also is like always, be in the learning mode. Just like you ladies said, right? You have to be, like savvy in learning. So develop that deep expertise in the new technologies, right? So if you talk about me, I always focused on automation, data analytics, and AI and machine learning in manufacturing. And then, secondly, what I would suggest is don't jump into technology, but first understand the business impact of the technology, right? The first, understanding the business problem and then thinking about technology actually worked out for me. For example, like when implementing a predictive maintenance solution, I demonstrated not just the technical aspect, but also like 25% reduction in maintenance costs, right? Like, for example, and 40% decrease in unplanned downtime, right? So first to think about those business impacts and then think about okay, how technology can solve it, right? And then another thing that in my experience, develop strong communication skills. Like coming from a different background, to be candid here, like bringing that bridge between technical and also like with the business stakeholders, right? It's a key thing. So understanding the traditions, understanding the human tendencies, right? Building that communication gap between the technical and business stakeholders is very important. So I also recommend taking like challenging projects, like you guys were saying, right? Like always say yes, right? Like because there is always an opportunity to learn, so that you can stretch your abilities and learn new things. So I would always volunteer for any type of a cross-functional initiatives and build relations across different departments. So leadership roles often like come from being able to see a bigger picture while maintaining that technical credibility. So that balance is what actually plays a big role.
That's awesome. Yeah, I appreciate that perspective, and I love how you mentioned communication and business, and in particular, like that has been a big learning of mine as I've grown in leadership is money makes decisions, right? So like understanding the business impact and why, how, one of the first things I say to anybody who comes in is like, learn first how we make money. Learn first, like, how does that work, right? And then we can talk about all these technology and all these solutions and all these fun things that get you excited. But like, first you gotta be able to keep the lights on, keep growing, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now I know you're really focused on digital, and I'm going to keep going back to you, Supriya, for one more, and AI and data machine learning and how these impact businesses. There's a lot of innovations that are going on right now, and that's certainly an area. But what do you think? What gets you the most excited? What are the most exciting innovations, emerging trends, et cetera, that you think are going to shape the manufacturing industry in the next 5 or even 10 years?
Awesome. Yeah, the most transformative trends that I'm actually witnessing, I'm pretty sure everyone in the world right now, is generative AI, right? Mm-hmm. So, every day in some form or the other, we are using generative AI like ChatGPT or different forms of generative AI to get insights, right? Like, to help our day-to-day jobs much better. So I see the same pattern in manufacturing also. Generative AI is revolutionizing manufacturing. So mainly, if you think about manufacturing, we are generating petabytes of data in manufacturing processes, right? So we've been using traditional AI, but generative AI is adding that little bit of personalization into this one, and able to get insights out of this data so quickly. And it became like so visible so quickly, right? And I see that manufacturing customers, especially working in Amazon Web Services, I see a lot of manufacturing customers are like testing it and proving the value of it, right? Where it can improve your employee productivity and also reducing costs and also innovation, right? Like in multi areas, actually it is we are seeing value in using generative AI. And then another biggest thing is digital twins, right? So you don't really need to go to a manufacturing facility to see how the operations are. You can actually visualize digital twins sitting in your house through a dashboard, right? So that is what another trend that we are seeing is manufacturing customers are adopting digital twins and also using it for simulation, right? Like before even making any changes to the actual manufacturing process, they're actually creating this virtual replica and then making those changes and seeing how it works, right? And then going back to the machine and making those changes. So it's actually very effective in that perspective, digital twins. Another thing is sustainability. I'm hearing sustainability a lot from customers, which is really great thing, right? Like how to save energy, smart energy management systems, so that they can reduce the carbon footprint and also improve efficiency. So I have seen implementations, these type of sustainability implementations reduce energy consumption by almost 30%. So while maintaining that same production output, so which is awesome actually. I know another thing is I know one of you were talking about robotics, right? So edge computing and robotics, also are being used for transforming the shop floor operations. So yeah, so these are the top areas that I'm seeing on a day-to-day working with large manufacturing customers, like transforming, operations and improving the operational excellence.
I wonder if I could call on some of maybe Suzy. How are you seeing these things being adopted? These new technologies being adopted by some of the small to mediums? Are you seeing the same excitement and investment, or are people hesitant?
We see a lot of hesitancy because it's all very confusing. Unfortunately, small and medium-sized manufacturers don't have people with the talent that we have on this necessarily to help guide them, and so they are afraid. And there has been so much, and we've all lived this, of robots and AI taking jobs away, right? And so we find that we constantly are fighting that when we're talking to the small and medium manufacturers across the United States. And I think one of the things that we could all do better is learn how to speak at their level, right? And talk about these technologies in a way that, maybe a large manufacturer gets it because they've got an IT staff and they have talented people that have that experience. But the truth of the matter is a small or medium-sized manufacturer can't afford to hire somebody who has expertise in AI. Those are $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 jobs right now. And so they are they're hungry for information. They're hungry for the speaking at their level. And so that's the type of work that we're doing, working through our consortium and working through our membership, is really helping those smaller manufacturers understand the most important thing is that these are productivity tools, just like productivity tools that they've used throughout their when they brought their first machine in, or whether they're using a CNC machine or whether they're using a 3D printer. These are all productivity tools, and helping them understand the skills that are needed to use those, and helping them understand how to either train their employees or find employees to get excited about it. But the bottom line is it's very possible that we have a worldwide labor shortage forever, right? Women are having less children. Women are interested in careers in manufacturing. And so the U.S. adopting these technologies that Amazon has done so well is critical for our success moving forward as a country. And so it's really, again, they're scared because they don't understand, because there's a lot of words that are being used that they don't really understand what they mean. So I think we can all play a role in helping that situation.
Yeah, I've been talking to a colleague recently about how we engage with customers, and one thing we've been saying is meet them where they're at, where they are, and that's just like wherever that is. What's their problem? What are we trying to help them with? And I think a lot of these things are scary, and people don't understand them, and particularly if you go back to like the manufacturing towns and you think that it's going to attack your livelihood the same way that, Suzy, you talked about the 70s and the overseas movement affecting your community. That is a scary thought. So how do we talk to them about productivity and about how their skills are still going to be needed? In fact, these are aiding the work that they do, not taking away. Thank you for that. We do have one question in the chat, and I'll just go ahead and throw it in now and encourage you guys to keep asking questions. I have some, but I'd rather hear what you guys want to hear from this amazing group of women. So we have a question in the chat. Do you see fractional expertise in manufacturing helping bridge the gap in discomfort Suzy mentioned in small to mediums and speaking their language?
So I'll start. I'll just jump in and start. So I think that having fractional expertise is an excellent way to augment the small and mediums, because you're not bringing in full-time people. They're not looking to do a career there, but they bring a certain expertise, and then the people at the small and mediums can learn from those and be able to help bridge some of their skills. And I think it's a great idea. We should do more of that.
Yeah. I would agree, but I also would like to point out that there are a lot of resources that the government provides to help small, medium-sized manufacturers be successful. Every state has a program called a Manufacturing Extension Partnership, or MEPs. There are the 18 national institutes. There are great organizations like SME. And so along with fractional, which I absolutely agree that has value, there are a lot of other resources, conferences. These webinars are all designed to help small, medium-sized manufacturers better understand how they can take advantage of these technologies and, improve the jobs of the people that they have, because they're giving them new skill sets, as well as improve their own ability to meet their supply chain challenges and meet their productivity goals and grow their business. So in addition to fractional, which will definitely help, take advantage of the resources that the federal government or your state government is providing to you.
Yeah, agreed on both fronts. I think it can be a both. You can use those part-time or fractional expertise engagements to educate your current workforce, so that once they are educated on these things, where you bring in this expertise, but you're building up the internal as well. So how do you, through that arrangement, do it in an intentional way so that you come out with the learning? Would be one thing I'd recommend for sure. But then also, yes, take advantage of the upskilling. The free upskilling that's available. There's plenty of free resources that are available. That's the cool thing about the world that we're living in. There's a lot of learning that's just available online and free to anyone who wants to do it and wants to seek it. Okay, awesome. Keep the questions coming. Love the engagement. So please just put it in the Q&A box there. But I'll keep rolling with my own. So this is if we think about some of the technologies we've already talked about, these advances, they're coming and they're shaping the future of smart manufacturing in general. But then, Supriya, you also mentioned business. And so I want to talk about, how do you see the intersection of customer expectations, those business expectations, and technological advances in shaping the future here? What is that intersection to you, and how do you see this shaping the future? And maybe it's a bit to meet them where they're at and elaborating on that. But Supriya, do you want to start us out?
Yeah, let me explain how technology is helping manufacturers better serve their customers through real example. So one of my manufacturing customers was facing a common problem. Their machines would unexpectedly break down, causing production delays and obviously, unhappy customers. So we helped them install sensors on their critical equipment that could collect the data about how the machines were performing. So using this data, what we did was we created a system that could predict when machine might fail. Kind of how your car tells, right? If it needs a service, before it actually breaks down, right? The light will pop up. So similar type of approach we took, actually improving that customer experience. So the benefit for this one was it could fix the problems before it happened, reducing the unexpected shutdowns by almost 40% of the times. And also the customer could offer their customers a new valuable service, right? So they could, with this implementation, they could guarantee an uptime and also provide performance reports, right? So it is moving from waiting for your car to break down to having a smart system that tells you exactly when to service it. So this changed the entire relationship with customers from just being an equipment provider to becoming a trusted partner for their customers, right? So that it kind of provided that trust between their the manufacturer and the customer. So this is a great example how new technology isn't just for improving operations, it's also for helping manufacturers provide that better service to their customers and create new business opportunities. So that is where I witness working with day to day with large manufacturers.
Yeah, I love that. And that circles back to you're solving a real problem for your customer. Jane, do you have any comments on the question?
I think Supriya gave a great answer, and I fully support or agree with, meeting them where they're at, the manufacturing where they're at, because every location, every unit is going to be at a little bit different place. And I actually now work in customer success. So when I saw this question, that was the first thing I was thinking of. But one of the things that I've learned in this role is that the tools need to work out of the box, and having a system integrator or someone help with that to do the installation and make the lift with the customer as easy as possible makes a big difference. And then building this technical ecosystem, I think, is what we're doing in smart manufacturing, where all the tools that a manufacturer needs, you can connect them all together, and so they have the holistic solution at their fingertips. And I see that these improvements of combining automation, data, and AI, smart manufacturing builds, improves how we build and consume, leading to smarter products, sustainable practices, and overall a better quality of life.
Yeah, that's awesome. Suzy, any thoughts?
To really pick up on that overall better quality of life too. We've seen a lot of research that says when manufacturing workers have the opportunity to be trained in new skills, working with advanced manufacturing technologies, that their salary increases and their job satisfaction increases. And so I think that's a motivation to continue to invest in your employees and continue to develop the skills so that they can not only do the work, but recognize when there are opportunities to bring new technologies in as well. It's always best to invest in your own team, right? It's a lot less expensive than to go out and continue to replace them, right? And so I think that that's just really critical. And I think that finding opportunities to give employees basic level understanding of what AI is, what a robot can do, what a 3D printer can do, et cetera, right, are really critical to help that manufacturing organization continue to be healthy.
Oh, thank you. So I know we've talked a lot about adoption of these different technologies, and I wonder, I'm hearing viewpoints of large businesses and small businesses, and I wonder how, you guys in your roles are ensuring that these technologies are accessible, that they're scalable, that they're sustainable for companies of all sizes. And in particular, like, if you're a large company, but you're working with small businesses and like, how do you push that through the supply chain, for example, or how are you engaging and making sure that these are sustainable through like short runs, small production runs, and larger production runs? These are all the challenges. Manufacturing is diverse, right? So you're not doing necessarily the same thing over and over and over again, right? So like, what are some of the things that make this challenging, and then how are you overcoming those challenges for accessibility, scalability, sustainability for across the value chain in different sizes? I guess I'll start with Jane, if you don't mind.
So I'd like to say that smart manufacturing should not be a privilege for the few, but actually it must be inclusive. We can't just, vendors can't just sell products that only the really big players can buy, that there needs to be a way to adopt all across manufacturing. And so we need to lower these adoption barriers and create adaptable technology paths, aligning with environmental goals and things like that. And the industry can ensure that the digital transformation benefits manufacturers across all regions, but we really have to play a part to ensure the success. I know that's not a direct answer to solve the problem because it's so vast, but working together, I think we can get there.
And I don't want to put you on the spot, Carley, but I will. How do you see this as like being part of a big prime? How do you work with how do you work across the supply chain in helping them adopt some of these things that are critical to your success? What are some of the ways that you've been able to do that?
Yeah, I think specifically, I mean, I'm fortunate that we've got a whole sourcing team that works directly with our suppliers, and we really kind of assess things at the program level based off of risk and opportunity. And so we have a very robust process that we follow for that. But if there's an opportunity that we can, have some efficiencies experienced in our production process with our suppliers, or maybe there's a flow down that we receive from our customer that we want to flow down to our sub-tiers, and they need, assistance in some of these areas to help improve their manufacturing processes, or incorporate some of the, different capabilities within the smart manufacturing world. We really work directly with them, because ultimately that will benefit us and improve the product that we deliver. And that's our number one priority, is to deliver quality products to our customers. So I think that we really lean on, working with them to understand what their needs are, what their capabilities are. And then our engineering staff is heavily engaged to ensure that, maybe there is an opportunity that they're not realizing that we've picked up on, and just working closely together as a team, creating that collaborative environment where we can have those discussions together to improve our processes in the long run.
Awesome. Suzy or Supriya, any additional comments or thoughts?
I was just going to say our model is very different, right? Because we're a national organization supporting manufacturers. And one of the things I think is very valuable and unique about our organization is we do try to find those problems that are preventing manufacturers from using technology. And then we receive funding from various sources to put together teams to try to solve those problems. So Carley's been involved with that, and Lockheed Martin's been a good partner. So we'll put together a team of a manufacturer and an early stage company and maybe a research institute like Carnegie Mellon or MIT, and bring in community colleges and trade schools. And then what we do is we try to solve that problem, and then we make the output available to every member of our organization. And we've got close to 470 member organizations now too. So one of the things I think that we do well, and that the institutes do well, is trying to break through some of these challenges and making that knowledge available. And all of our members are willing to help solve those problems, which is a wonderful thing. And so I think a lot of it just has to do with forming teams and finding opportunities, again, whether you join an institute or you join SME, to just really learn from each other and see that some things are possible. There's so much that is possible that people don't know about, right? And taking advantage of the knowledge that's out there, I think, is key.
And what I heard there is there's intentionality behind your teams, and behind what you're trying to do is you're bringing together those diverse players within the industry that may or may not be connected without that team and without that project, right? But you connect them, and you provide funding, also critical, especially for those small to mediums, where they can participate in and be connected to the various layers, to the research institutions and the trade schools, and also potential customers for them. So that's awesome. And I love how there's organizations like ARM and all the institutes playing in that space, because those are critical to our success here in the US as a manufacturer, or to rebuild manufacturing and rebuild a lot of what we have lost. Okay, awesome. Please, again, reminder, if you guys have questions out in the audience, you've got amazing talent here that would love to answer them. So please keep them coming. Okay. To keep going here. So Supriya, you've talked a lot about success stories, but what about some of the key challenges that you see in your role of adoption? What are some of the things that are difficult for companies when they're trying to adopt these advanced manufacturing techniques?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. When working with manufacturers, right, like, small, medium, large, it's not always a rosy picture, right? Like, there are challenges. Like, if you talk about, like, for example, if we need to get the data and get insights from a particular manufacturing plant, so there are, like, legacy systems are also there, right? It's not always modern hardware is not always available. So the first challenge that I commonly see is legacy system integrations. Imagine, like, trying to connect a 30-year-old machine that speaks an old language and you want to connect the data, and you want to use like modern cloud systems, right? So that's a challenging aspect we see, like on pretty regularly. So I recently worked with a manufacturer who had a very expensive, and it was a very reliable equipment from 1990s. So they didn't want to decommission it, they still wanted to do it. So what we did was, we went in a step-by-step manner. We solved the problem that they wanted to do, resolve by adding like, some type of modern sensors, at least starting from like, how is the temperature? How are the vibrations, right? So from there, like, we started off and created at least capturing some data from this old legacy machine, and, getting some insights out of that, equipment. So that is like, very commonly seen, working with all sizes of manufacturing customers. And then like, when we talk about smart manufacturing and digital transformation, when we talk about data, obviously the challenge that we see is data security, right? So IT is like, they have more, services or tooling to secure. But when we talk about manufacturing data, it is still like a very vulnerable area, right? Like, OT, right? So, and the manufacturing data is like company's secret sauce, right? It needs to be protected, and still it needs to be useful. So that is another challenge we see, like, how to expose a particular machine data to suppliers, for example, or to any external system securely. So that is another, key thing or a challenge we see, like how to make it work. Right. And another thing I know Suzy, you have been talking about is workforce upskilling, right? So the technology is evolving so much, and how do we keep the workforce up to date, right? Like, and that is actually challenging, and we do like continuously provide trainings for the teams, the workforce with the, like new technology. For example, like I have a workshop in next 2 weeks on kind of upskilling the shop floor workforce on how to use generative AI, like the concepts or the basics. So that is very important because, as you said, right, like, if you're not keeping up with the technologies, you will like, lack a lot of things. So that is another thing. And also I see is like, cultural change, right? Many manufacturers are used to fixing things when they break. So like very reactive type of an approach, right? So moving to a predictive approach, like where like, you are using data to kind of predict issues. So changing that mindset is also like a little bit difficult. That's what we see, right? If you've been doing things, on the paper, it is working. So, let us continue it. But changing that mindset is also kind of, a little bit, challenging initially. But like, I think what I do is like, data driven, creating small proof of concepts and showing them, hey, this is how it works, look at this, it improves your, day-to-day life, right? And that is one of the things. And also like, lastly, what I see is whenever we are working with manufacturer of any sizes, right, the first thing that they would ask is, okay, what is the return of investment, ROI? What is it? We need to provide justification, right? So seeing that clear value, it takes a little bit of time. So educating them, showing them with, proof of concepts is another, aspect to it, like not just directly jumping into a business case and, creating a solution.
I like that. You're taking them on the journey with you, with that, like, let's start small, prove out value, and then build on it from there. That's great. Awesome. Thank you. Those were really tangible examples of the challenges that people face. And I think all of us can relate to something within that of challenge that we have seen, having been in our careers for a while. Okay, we do have another question I want to hit, and then we'll do some final advice for those out there. So the question is, there are a lot of negative perceptions of manufacturing in the minds of young people and their parents, which deter them from entering the field. Do you have a quick elevator speech that you give to people to explain how you view working in advanced manufacturing and what seems to resonate best? Excellent question. I love it. Okay, who wants to start?
Suzy, I'm sorry. I was like, I have to jump in and answer this question.
All right, Carley, you and then Suzy, go.
Okay.
This one really hits home with me. I grew up on a farm in upstate New York. My siblings and I were expected to take over from my parents. Obviously, my life looks very different today, and a big part of that is just educating, the young folks is one aspect to it, but educating those who are in the workforce and have this image of exactly what manufacturing is, and it's literally, people might think the same thing over and over and over and over again. But it's crazy because truly the possibilities are endless. And I know I say that and it sounds like, oh, that's so far-fetched, but when I worked the robotics portfolio at the Advanced Technology Labs, and we were working with ARM and trying to come up with responses to the tech calls, really honing in on areas of technology where advancement was necessary and needed and quickly. It was literally in a room with people whiteboarding, coming up with these, people might think crazy ideas, but really cutting edge technology concepts that we were able to make a reality within, I'll say 12 months, maybe for those particular concepts. But so I really think that it's just getting people, that my elevator pitch is, imagine your wildest dreams about technology and what's out there, these robotic systems or AI involvement in these processes. And they're true, they're happening. And, people just don't realize it or know it, or it scares them. So just kind of like bringing it back to reality of, the possibilities are endless, but these things are happening. So let's be a part of it and be proactive and work together towards it. I don't know, this one just really hits home. I could talk for a long time, so I'll let Suzy take over.
About it. I love it. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Suzy, you want to go?
I have to say, I appreciate and love Carley's enthusiasm, because I answer this question almost every day for the past 8 years in my job. And what I've honed in on, and the statement that I use is, manufacturing is a technology job where you get to make things. Yeah. And I think that appeals to, tell me, Carley, because you're younger than me, that appeals to a younger audience who loves the concept of making stuff. Maker spaces and making things is very popular. And of course, it's a technology job. That's been our biggest challenge, quite frankly, is helping people to understand that their perception of their parents or their grandparents' perception of manufacturing is 100% wrong. It's no longer a dull, dirty, or dangerous job. And it's not a physical job in many instances, not every instance, but many. And so because it's a job where you're using your brain more than your brawn, because it's a job where you get to use newer technologies, it's actually a job that can appeal to anybody, male, female, people with disabilities. It really opens up the field to everybody, because you're more of a knowledge worker now as a manufacturer than maybe you were 50 years ago. And so that's really what I use, is say, you like to make stuff? Guess what you do in manufacturing? You make stuff. You like technology? Guess what you do? You're using technology. And I think, it's incumbent upon all of us in manufacturing to help flip that story and help people understand that the perceptions are incredibly outdated as to what manufacturing is.
Yeah, and I think that's true in both I'll say like the engineering fields. It's also true in the technician fields, right? Where we also have a shortage of people going into the trades right now. There was the everybody should go to college era in the last 10 to 20 years. And maybe that's not true for everybody. And how are we supporting, as leaders in manufacturing, how are we supporting that that idea and concept that there are excellent jobs out there available for people in manufacturing, both as engineers and technicians. Awesome.
And in marketing and sales and operations and finance. And so there are many jobs in manufacturing. It isn't just being on the factory floor. And I think that's important for everyone to understand.
Yes, thank you. So true. Okay, awesome. All right, well, so we're going to close it out here, and we're going to do that with one final question. So I'd like to hit every person for this one. So what final piece of advice would you offer to women aspiring to take on leadership roles in smart manufacturing? And then, second part of that question, what's one thing you wish you would have known when you started your journey? Any volunteers to go first? Jane,
So
you're leaning in. Yeah,
I'll
let's
start.
go.
Yeah. So I just have to say go for it, because it's cool to see how things are made, and to lead a team doing that is really interesting. But I've really enjoyed my leadership roles throughout my career, and the pivot from subject matter expert to leader was a tough decision to make, but I've never regretted it. And if I could do one thing different, I'd go back and do it sooner. Because it took me about 20 years before I'd even consider it. And making that transition, making that change where you responsible for everything technical that's happening, but also helping to develop and nurture a team is really rewarding.
Yeah, my experience has been, in my career, what I have learned is initially when I started my journey, I felt like, oh, I'm different, maybe that is not good. But actually, after getting into my career, working with a lot of customers, what I've learned is being different is actually a superpower. Okay, so coming with the manufacturing or mechanical engineering background and jumping onto computer science, so working with manufacturing customers, I always had like, or maybe they don't see me as like a manufacturing, right, like background. So but actually later on when I got into the working with manufacturing customers, actually it played a good role, right? Like, and I could see like what is manufacturing processes and how I can apply the technology to improve that better. So that actually worked out much better for me. And and also having the technical knowledge, so gives the credibility also for manufacturing customers. So that's what I felt it paid off a lot in my career.
I can jump in. So something that I've learned as a leader is that my success is dependent upon my team's success. So really, I focus on making sure that they have what they need so they can be successful as easily and quickly as possible. And that's, again, something I live by, these key items that I'm sharing with you all today, little nuggets of into Carley's brain as a leader. And something that I wish that I could change is when I first started, I think I was really intimidated just by, maybe a big business, manufacturing, production, not having experience there, because when you come right out of school, they don't teach you production in college or grad school or anything like that. And I wish that I was fearless when I first joined the workforce. I wish that I didn't hold myself back because of the fear of judgment or fear of the unknown. And I think that's why today I've adopted so much the be comfortable being uncomfortable, because that got old really quickly for me. I realized if I wanted to be successful, that needed to go out the window. So I would encourage everybody to kind of have that mindset when they first enter a new experience or the workforce.
You want to close us out, Suzy?
Sure. And I think what's important for everyone to understand is that there are hundreds of thousands of open jobs right now in manufacturing in the United States, and that's only going to continue to grow. So if women are looking for opportunities to build careers, there are a lot of opportunities in manufacturing to do that right now, because skilled labor is the number one issue that's holding us back in the United States. It's not the technology, it's skilled labor. And so building upon all of my colleagues who've given terrific advice, go for it. Look for those opportunities to help a manufacturer be even more successful. They're out there. They're out there in spades. And I think, that's not I can just recall, growing up in the environment that I described, my parents said to me, you should be anything you want except for going to manufacturing, because of the devastation that happened in Pittsburgh, right? And the number of people that lost their jobs. And so it took me a long time to go to manufacturing because of those words. And I really wish parents today would say manufacturing is as great of an opportunity as going into any other profession. And there are a lot of reasons why. And so I think for me, I was influenced by an environment that really helped me from being involved with manufacturing for quite some time. And the environment that parents and teachers create is critical. So everything that we can do to help parents and teachers understand that this is an exciting, viable, and important role in the United States, I think it is important for all of us to do that. There's no losing here. We only win more as we do more manufacturing in the United States. We're not going to do everything here, but we can do more, right? And I think that's an important goal for all of us.
One of my colleagues often says you cast a bigger shadow than you know. And I think that's true of parents, that's true of leaders, that's true of all of you guys. So thank you so much for sharing your insights today, your experiences. So great of a conversation for me to be a part of, and hopefully for all of you guys who are listening. We are going to now take a short break. The program resumed with a workshop led by Lisa Ryan, the Chief Appreciation Officer at Grategy. She's going to focus on retaining top talent and cultivating a culture of gratitude in manufacturing. It sounds amazing. Can't wait to listen into that.